So now we're going to go through the clay bar process, John, and even though we've washed the car and we've removed all the contaminants, if you run your finger on there gently, you can still feel a little bit of micro abrasions. You can sometimes even hear it if you're real quiet. It almost sounds like a little bit of a really light sandpaper.
Yeah, I can totally feel that.
So what we're going to do is use a little bit of lubrication and some Meguiar's clay, and we're going to take all that imperfection off before we polish it and put the wax on, because then that way we are working off the smoothest surface we can.
Okay, cool. That's what I always thought, maybe the wax would do that to a certain point, but this is something that you're doing before you're getting to the wax. So that wax
absolutely.
Get in there.
Yeah, so what I like to do is I've got some lubrication. I use the Meguiar's microfiber towel to kind of clean up as I go, because I only work in kind of a, you know, like a 2x2 area at a time. Okay. And we use a little bit of the clay, and it's a really easy process. It's really hard to mess up. So
cool. I've never seen this done, so I'm really interested to see how the clay bar works. I've heard about it, but it really just seems foreign to me to be putting clay on your car. But I get it. I get it that it's there to take off all these particles.
Yeah, it's hard to see on the film, but if you actually feel how tacky that is.
Oh, this is clay. This is like silly putty.
It is like silly putty, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to use that to remove all of the contaminants off the car. So first thing we'll do is we're just going to hit it with a little lubrication. I like to work in kind of like a 2 or 3 foot area.
Okay.
And just going to get the surface wet. Now, if you know you're going to clay your car and polish your car at the same time you're washing it, you don't even have to dry it. As long as you're not in the direct sun, when you wash it, you can clay with just using some soapy water. You just squeeze that right over the top of the clay as you go. But basically what you're trying to do...
just something to give the clay something to flow on.
Exactly. So what I'm doing is I'm not pushing down at all. All I'm doing is just moving the clay back and forth. You can take a look.
Yeah,
that's how dirty it is before we've even spent any time on it.
So the clay is actually kind of like a sponge.
It's absolutely like a
really
sponge.
Fine sponge.
Yeah, and the nice thing about the Meguiar's is, given that it's white, it's super sticky, you really can kind of see the before and after, which is really great. So I'm just going to kind of work this area. Again, I use my straight lines because if there is anything in here and the clay picks it up and is rubbing along it, I don't want that to scratch in a big circle.
Right, right. Wow, that's amazing. I can't believe we just washed the car. And look how dirty it still is. These clay bars aren't like $1 million. These are an easy thing.
They're super cheap.
Buy, and you can just. What are you doing right there?
So what I do is after I do an area, you just kind of knead it to another clean spot. That way you're never putting dirty stuff on the car. Again, we don't want to add any contaminants. We're always removing contaminants.
Again, look just like silly putty.
So John, why don't you come over here and give it a shot. Work in straight lines. All you want to do is hold the clay is gliding across. Don't press down.
I'm not polishing. I'm just kind of just letting it flow.
The second the clay starts to stick, that's when you know you need to put a little bit more lubrication on it. So all you're doing is just smoothly running it across there.
And when it slides totally cleanly, then I know I'm done. Right? Absolutely.
And sometimes you can even hear it. So if you go right there and just are real quiet.
Yeah, it's like the sheets rubbing against my legs when I'm sleeping. Wow, there's just still dirt coming up. That's awesome. Yeah, you can really feel it once before you've gone over it with the clay bar to when you're done with the clay bar. And I mean, not only can you see it, but like Tim said, you can feel it and you can even hear it. Oh yeah, baby.
So John, that's a pretty good spot. So again, same thing with the towels. We don't want that to touch the ground. We always want to keep that, clean. So I'll just always, when I'm working on an area, I'll just have a couple of towels right here. So now after we've done this area, all we're going to do is just kind of dry it off. Just kind of buff it off, remove the lubrication. So again, we're not putting any water spots on the car. There's nothing for the car to kind of get dirty. All we're trying to do is get the paint nice and clean so that it'll take a really good polish.
So one of my misconceptions was with clay was that you were kind of applying something to the car in the clay process, but basically the clay is removing stuff from the car. That's amazing to me.
So if you run your hand, and if the camera can pick it up, I don't know, just run your finger between where we've clayed and where we haven't. All the way down.
Oh, dude. Friction, glossy. Yeah, to the touch, it's totally different. And what that means is that there's less contaminants in the paint, right?
Absolutely, there's less contaminants, and it's given us a nice base to work with. So once we've clayed the whole car, then we can start the polish process.
Cool. Well, let's get to it.
Let's do it. One other tip that I like to make sure that I'm always doing is I fold my towel up into at least 4, sometimes even 8, because it lets you work on the car without putting a ton of pressure. If you're pushing a lot and you just have one ply, you're putting a lot more force on the car, which sometimes is good, but most of the times is bad. But when you double up and triple up, quadruple up your towel, then you can put some pressure on the car without worrying that you're going to do any damage to the paint. Hey John, come check it out. I just finished your bumper. I want to show you just how dirty that is.
Dude, it looked so clean. It is not clean. Is it clean now?
It's pretty clean.
It's pretty clean now? Man, that is such a difference. Amazing.
So the clay also does a really good job of helping clean up around emblems. You want to be careful though, because it's easy to get it stuck into the crevices, but in a badge like the 911, you can just run it with a little lubrication right along the edge, and it'll pick up contamination, as well as give it a nice little polish right there. It's typically really hard to get your fingers in these little cracks and crevices, but this clay is so malleable, it'll just sneak right in there and clean it up.
So, Tim, how often do you clay bar your cars? Is this a once a year, once a month, once in a lifetime?
It just depends. I mean, it depends on how you drive. If you do a lot of freeway driving, you get a lot of bugs, a lot of grit. Is there a lot of construction around your house? It's as much as you want. I usually, about once a month or once every other month, I'll wash my car and at least clay it, and then put a coat of wax on it. Okay. And then maybe 3 times a year I'll wash, clay, and then polish, like a really light polish, just to make sure there's no swirl marks or anything.
So it's something you could do every time you wash your car?
You could do it every time you wash your car. I mean, it adds maybe half an hour to a car like this to do it right, and to go through and kind of clean it up as you go. But I think it's totally worth it. There's nothing better than having that glassy finish that you can feel the second you do it.
Yeah, one look at the clay bar once you've used it and you see how much dirt you're taking off, that will tell you that you want to do this, because your car is not clean if you're picking up dirt. Look at that. It's still on there. It's still on there. We washed it. You saw us wash it. And there's still so much dirt in the paint. We're getting it all out. Yeah, one thing about this clay bar thing, we want to remind you that it's a disposable product, so don't try to use it to its last bit, because you're just going to be putting stuff back on the car, right Tim?
Absolutely. I mean, you can see how dirty that thing got just after hitting part of the car. So once it gets to a dirty spot and you can't knead it away anymore, then it's time to just ditch it and throw it away.
Okay, cool. Yeah, these are affordable things, and so don't overuse it. Right on.